Hi, Paulie here. So, long ago, in fact, in 1989, Game Designers Workshop did a work of genius. This was Space 1889. Now, this is a game of Victorian adventure, Victorian science fiction. It's sparked off by H.G. Wells and Jules Verne and so on, but they did a brilliant job. So the basis that they've made this on is that an ethereal propeller is created by Edison, which can drive vessels forward through the etherscape. It all uses Victorian kind of concepts of science. And of course, mankind makes some ships which go heading off to Mars. The ships are great. They've got this ethereal propeller which drives them forward. And they've got a big mirror, which, because it's all steam technology, which focuses sunlight onto a boiler. This is what provides the power for the ship. Now these things got to Mars and they discovered, of course, Mars has breathable air. There's a canal network and there's the old cities of Mars which have kind of been decaying back. It's a fallen civilization. It once had high technological greatness and has kind of withered back, and now the waters have been drying up. Some of the canals have been drying up. These canals were built by the previous civilization as the environment began drying out. They're being maintained, but some of the side branches have dried up or have been sealed off. They're fed from the poles by mighty sealed machines that still kind of melt the seasonal ice. And so, okay, problematically, this is Victorian colonialism in outer space. What-ho, a bunch of primitive people. Right, let's shoot them in the skull and nick their stuff. All right, so this is, Victoriana rule Britannia, particularly rule Britannia. What they've done is set up an entire section of the solar system. So because it's steam-powered ships, Mars is as far out as they can really go. They haven't found a way of going out past to the asteroid belt and Jupiter and so on because the sunlight is too dim for them to focus. So that is science that can be invented in the game. Characters may well invent, some sort of sustaining power plant. But what they've done is, they've said this is the great age of exploration now for the inner system. So they have laid out environments. So first off, here is Earth as it stood, 1889. There is a brilliant side book that they've done, which is The Soldier's Companion, which actually is a great historical resource, actually. It's every single sort of nation on Earth, effectively, what its army was. It's got its regiments, its uniforms, what weapons they are armed with, and so on. So if you really want to know what Uruguay has, or what the emergent kingdom of Hawaii had, or what the rifles were that are being used by different groups around the world, and what the Bolivian army looks like, or what the Romanian army looks like, and so on. It was all in there. So a nice skirmish system of rules that they put in, because these guys were wargamers. But what they've also done is just do the wonderful resource. So they've got the moon there, which of course wasn't really paid much attention to, but as it turns out there's deep caverns there, and there are selenites, there are moon creatures that live there, and there are deep caverns that have whole kind of environments. There's free water under there, and there's mysterious creatures that live in these things. Huge monstrous things live in the caverns, and these sort of clannish selenites fighting things out, and you can make contact with them if you discover them, and you can try and trade and try and not get eaten by these things and find some sort of dread secrets, because some of the old technology that made Mars work and so on, and some of these groups have had near magical technologies, they can be found. Mercury, that's got a giant river which runs around the equator in the shadow sort of side, and there are weird kind of creatures living there. It's very, very primitive, but of course everywhere's got a breathable atmosphere, because that was Victorian science fiction. So research stations are going on there. There's molten metal kind of boils up on the sun face of Mercury, but it's very hard to actually try and make something shielded enough to scoop this out. But there's people there trying to look at ways of mining this, and wherever there are people, there's conflict. And then Venus. So next one is Venus. Well, Venus, as we all know, is cloudy and therefore swampy and rains all the time. And of course, what do you get in a Victorian kind of imagination with swamp and rains and heat, because it's closer to the sun? It's dinosaurs. So Venus is dinosaur central. Dinosaurs, of course, like wading through swamps. We all know that. And there are intelligent lizard people there. Again, they've been quite primitive and quite clannish, and there's a lot of fungal infections and so on. So Venus was first kind of explored by the Germans, who didn't have much in the way of air technologies, but they flew in, and once you fly your ship in, your main drives, the ethereal propeller, will not work once you get into close gravity around a planet. So the Germans used dirigibles, and they had some trouble because their first guys got horrible fungal lung infections and so on, but they found out how to use this, and they've been dealing with the lizard men there. And so Venus is a place of strange little trade towns that they've had to fortify because Tyrannosauruses and things keep wandering around and trying to get in there and eat you. So there's kind of fortified camps to fight off the dinosaurs, but the jungles are this incredible cornucopia of medicinal plants and incredible sort of discoveries out there organically. And so there are big game hunters wanting to go and fight dinosaurs. There are some dinosaurs that have weird there are venoms that could be medically useful. There are plants and orchids and all sorts of things. There could be things that are used for love drugs that cure cancer or that do all these things. So they're trying to find these, trying to ally with lizard men. There are hostile lizard men out there who will ambush you. So it's very much sort of the Congo dark sort of jungle. You can get eaten by dinosaurs. Plus, there are other nations setting up there, and the Germans sort of like see it as a bit of theirs, so they might be sabotaging you. So lots of intrigue. Great. Mars, old civilizations. There's canal Martians, and there's also high Martians. Now the high Martians, they've actually got volcanic membranes between their arms and legs, and they have an organ in them that fights gravity and kind of lets them fly. Not wee Superman fly, but they can drift about. And they're very dangerous, they're very savage, they're sort of horrible, kind of cannibalistic pagan sorts that the canal Martians, who are the civilized ones, despise. And the canal Martians are holding on to a lost grandeur, so they tend to be all these little cityscapes and minor kingdoms and so on. So it's very much a landscape a bit like India when the Raj was first sort of beginning in the 18th century. All these different city-states that have been fighting over the dwindling resources and so on, and their science was sort of had withered around to very little. But there are trees which have this anti-gravity capability in them, driftwood, or liftwood rather. And so when the British came down, they found this liftwood, and you can put this liftwood into vehicles and it literally fights gravity. So they've got big anti-gravity kind of ships that can move around. The Martians have always used these, and they've got the equivalent of sort of sail-driven ones, and also sort of muscle-powered galleys. They've got guys kind of driving cranks that drive propellers. British and everyone turned up, they put steam engines in these, and top ho! So you've got like, here's our steam frigate, it's got some Nordenfeldts and a couple of Gatling guns, and it's got a Hotchkiss quick-firing breech loader, and we're there to stop the dreaded air pirates. And they're all these kind of the free captains of Mars, all these adventurers that have turned up, and some of them work for native princes, and some of them are sort of mercenaries, and some of them are just adventurers, and so they engage in fighting off pirates and doing all these sorts of things. There's air pirates everywhere, so there's a whole kind of sky galleys things. Slight sidebar here, so back in the day, GDW built this wonderful board game, Sky Galleons of Mars, and it was a great game. It was a war game of this, and tragically it's one of the things that kind of crashed their company because there was a big disaster, and in those days you had to print everything. You couldn't really print on demand. Their warehouses got wiped out, and so they had to reprint, and it put them in debt. So some tragedy attached to this game, which it doesn't deserve. It was wonderful. But Mars, obviously intrigue. The Japanese are down there, the French are down there. You know, everyone's got their little enclaves, a bit like sort of 55 Days in Peking. Everyone's got their little bits and pieces, intriguing against each other, trying to turn local princes to come sort of into their side. There's lots of resources there. And of course, there's ancient lost cities and buried grandeur. So for characters and so on, they can be archaeologists and they can be trying to get into these sites to try and find secrets of these lost technologies. Some of these could be, you know, sacred sites, or they could be in high Martian territory, etc., etc. And, you know, meanwhile you've got the whole Raj thing going on, so you've got the equivalent of like Northwest Frontier. We've got to hold back the savages, or, you know, deal with the perfidious Frenchmen or whoever who are trying to outmaneuver you or turn local kings into attacking you. And okay, lots of good sort of frontier-y kind of fun there. And they also have some interesting little leads just sewn all through it. So the asteroid belt might have been a smashed world. They're actually, everywhere has its intelligent species, so there is a hidden intelligent species on Mercury, just no one's found it yet. Plus, obviously, Earth is still there, so we've still got, you know, unexplored bits on Earth. We've got the Belgian Congo and so on, but because we've got this layer of Victorian science, there may be hidden temples on Earth. The Martians came to Earth. They may have left things hidden here. Now we know how to find it. Some of these old strips of hieroglyphs and so on in Egyptian temples may actually be references to Mars, so there may be hidden sites on Earth. So this was, all in all, a rip-roaring adventure setting. The technology is absolutely 1889, so the absolute latest, hottest, wettest thing is the Lee Metford bolt action rifles just come in, lever action rifles and so on, your mighty Webleys and all this sort of thing are there. Any Western gunfighter, yeehaw, bang away sort of thing, it's all in there. Now, the thing that let the original game down was it had an absolutely execrable game system. For all this work they put into this wonderful imagination, there was all these things on it. You could have characters that were inventors and they had all this super sort of Victorian science you'd go into. This dreadful, dreadful system where they tried to keep it very simple for some reason, and it really let the game down. And it was actually legendarily stupid. So, like, there were essentially big weapons and little weapons. A pistol does a point, and like a rifle does 2 points, and it just comes off your characteristics, but your characteristics were a number between sort of 1 and 6. But you could save against the damage and so on. So you honestly did get to a point where he's got a 6 gun. It's like, I don't care, right? Well, I have 6 strength. He's got 6 bullets, but I have like a 50-50 chance of saving against damage even if he hits me. So, you know, absolutely at best he could make me unconscious but not kill me, but well, probably he can just empty that pistol into me and I can just walk past. So yeah, we had some problems. However, it's come out again, thank the gods. So you can find this, Space 1889, re-released. It's got all of that setting that we loved. Clockwork Publishing, Ubiquity is the system. So Ubiquity System's been around a while. It's one of the classic dice pool systems. So this is all of that setting that you liked. Now, the original game had lots of adventures that it published and lots of additional material. These are still available. You'll find them on drive-thru and so on. They all work for this. I mean, it's a simple matter to just turn characteristics of enemies over into this new system. So, highly recommend this. Of this book, seriously, most of this is just the background. The system itself is pretty damn easy. It's a dice pool system. As is typical, you've got characteristics, which are relatively low numbers. You've got skills. That gives you a number of dice that you're rolling, and you're rolling against a task difficulty to achieve. Fantastic. You know, we've seen this 100 times. We've seen it 100 times because it works and it's simple. Obviously you gain experience, which can increase your skills, etc., etc. Now what you get is a lot of interesting little quirks that you can pick up for your character. So you can actually choose to take floors. You can also gain some little benefits for your character. You can, I get an iron jaw. I've got sharp senses, I've got extra combat skills, what have we got? Bold attack, bold defense, these sorts of things. Alright, so you pay some points and you get these. And a slew of really good skills. And character flaws. Why would you volunteer to take a character flaw? The game has style points. Anytime you play one of your flaws, anytime you play one of the motivations that you've picked for your character, there's a whole row of different things that you can pick. So my guy's greedy, my guy's after glory, my fellow's a romancer, my gal, wants ancient knowledge. When you act towards those, or when you play your flaw, you get style points, and the style points are not only used to basically trash them in and you get extra rolls, extra dice and so on, you can also use them as your get out of jail free cards. You can reduce the effect of dice rolls, which means you can reduce damage taken on you, or if you essentially get knocked to a stage where you're having to test against being killed, obviously you pull the style points in and you can save the day with that. So a nice little mechanic that pushes you into roleplay and actually makes you want to take quirks and character flaws. So well thought out, well done. So this actually does what was needed to turn an excellent game into a truly brilliant game. We've got this setting which just absolutely speaks of nothing but adventure, and now there's a workable game system that goes with it. So it's got all this wonderful leads into the kind of crazy science that characters could go if you're an inventor sort, and so there's all these sort of leads. You can go onwards to adventure. Are your guys going to be the ones that go and find lost secrets, which leads them to develop a power plant that will let them go onwards, discover the actual secrets out there? Everywhere else has got intelligent life. Is there something out in the asteroids? Is Ceres actually inhabited? What's around Jupiter? All these moons around Jupiter. Is there a sinister force? Did Martian civilization not fall because the environment changed? Did something change it? Is there something out there, an insidious force and so on? So all these things are for you to invent in the tradition of H.G. Wells, and literally the world's yours. Look, the setting has absolutely survived the test of time. It's one of the truly great role-playing adventure settings. I'm so glad they brought a new system out. It comes with a few other bits and pieces. You get there's some Games Master screen stuff, which has lots of reference material that comes with it, and we've of course got the inevitable screeniness with all the inevitable chartiness. But ta-da! There's not that much to it, but it tells you what kind of guns and creatures and monsters and whatever is out there. If you've never played Space 1889, it's thoroughly worth it. You kind of got to get into your pip and all that British fun, or are you Legionnaires? I ran one once where everyone were Legionnaires, and that was kind of neat because in that one you were French Foreign Legionnaires, but you had to write down your dread secret. Why have you joined the Legion? And one guy of course said he didn't know because you joined the Legion to forget. Fair enough. So I invented it, but everyone's dread secrets are out there to haunt them. So, you've got beau geste that you can bring in there. You've got the whole kind of Alex Quatermain two-fisted kind of adventurer, wrestling with dinosaurs and so on. You've got that sort of thing out there. You've got the whole kind of sword-swinging, fight the natives, Zulu kind of colonial BS. So the Martians and so on, they've come from an ancient world, and okay, so from a British point of view they've lost technology, which means they're less than they were, but are they? Because they've got a level of sort of spiritualism. They believe in gods and so on, but they have this sort of mystique about them. So there is an opportunity here to turn those tropes over, to basically turn the colonial thing over on its head, where these people are actually what's strong and what's diverse and what's kind of powerful about the setting. We do have the opportunity to turn that frown upside down and make this the thing that really makes those old colonial tropes seem ridiculous, because they missed the essence of the core of this, which is that this diversity is the strength. So that's just a thought I can reel out to you. Look, the new system makes this playable. It's out there, it's available, it's online. If you've never played it, then you've really, really missed something. If you used to play it and that combat system just drove you mad, or you played it to death for a while and let it go, now's the time to go back and have a look at it. It's well done, and it's a living game, and I really think it's 5-star. Get out there and check it out. Cheers.